Hello and welcome to another episode of Two Guys and a Chainsaw. I'm Todd.
And I'm Craig.
Well, Craig, we are kicking off a month that was 100% your idea, Horror Comedy Month. I feel like this isn't the first time we've done a Horror Comedy Month, but maybe it is. I don't know.
I don't know if we've ever done a full month. I mean, we've definitely done horror comedies. I love horror comedies, hence this month.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great idea, and I love theme months, so yeah, let's just do it all.
I know you love a theme month.
Mm-hmm.
I did, and I had several in mind, and I don't want to spoil them all. I want it to be surprises, but I don't know if this is the movie that made me think of the month, but I knew I wanted to do this one first. 1989's The Burbs, directed by Joe Dante. What is your history with this movie?
Oh gosh, my history with this movie is nothing but lovely. We watched this a lot growing up, and we loved it. I remember there being so many little catchphrases from this movie, some of which I kind of forgot until we started watching it. I know we had it on video, probably recorded off the TV or something, but I do remember this came out at a time when Tom Hanks was still mostly doing comedies.
Mm-hmm.
I think, even though I believe this was filmed before Big, they took a little time to get post-production finished, and Big came out before this.
Yeah, I think they were filming this when Big came out. By the time this came out, he was nominated for something. I don't know, Best Actor, I guess?
Yeah. Was he just nominated, or did he actually win?
I just saw nominated, but I'm not sure.
I think nominated. I don't think he won an Oscar until Philadelphia.
Right, I think that's right.
This was right at the edge, right? Like, at this point, Tom Hanks was a big-name actor, but he was mostly known as a comic actor. Like, he was in Bachelor Party and Splash and The Burbs and Big, and he was just doing all these goofy comedies, but everybody loved him. He was really, really good. And I think it was around the time Big came out, because he had a lot more serious heart later on. You know, that movie's got a lot of going on in it. I really love his performance in it. And so he had a nice little trajectory to his career. And then, if I remember correctly, because I remember distinctly watching the Academy Awards when he won the Oscar for Philadelphia, where I believe he played a gay man that was kicked out of the military because he had AIDS.
I don't know.
And went to court about it. God, I should have looked this up beforehand, but it was something along those lines, and it was a completely serious role. And from then on, he started getting more serious roles, and it's hard to believe, but yeah, that was the Tom Hanks that in the early 80s, nobody ever would have believed that he was going to grow up to be like the widely respected serious actor that Tom Hanks is. It's like he can do it all now.
Yeah.
And it's really cool.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, he's good in this. It's full of stars. My understanding is that this movie wasn't well reviewed when it came out. It had some people liked it, some people didn't, but everyone I know loved it. And I think that it didn't take long, especially on the home video market, for everyone else to just sort of unanimously fall in love with this movie.
Yeah, I was actually surprised to read that it was critically panned. It did pretty well because Big was huge and Tom Hanks was nominated. So like it made its money back at least. Mm-hmm. But it was, I think, the worst reviewed movie of that year. And I don't
crazy.
Get it.
What was coming out? What kind of gems were coming out that year? I got to go back and look. 1989, geez.
Exactly. Like, I don't get it. I don't think that I was aware of that at the time because, like you, everybody that I knew thought it was hilarious. Like, this is a movie, like you said, the same. I think we have pretty much the same experience. I don't think we had it, but we would get really excited when it would come on, or we would rent it over and over again.
Yeah.
Because it's hilarious.
Yes.
And it is horror. It's a horror comedy. It leans heavy into the comedy, as many of these that I have chosen are going to. So
yeah.
I hope that's okay, dear listener.
I like what you chose. I've just got to say, we're not going to spoil it, but I think that what you chose is a nice series of these, sometimes forgotten, sometimes underappreciated, but actually really lovely horror comedies. It's going to be a great month. Great month.
Yeah, I think so too. And I just wanted to do something fun. I want to laugh. Everything feels kind of serious and heavy these days. And I just wanted to, let's talk about something fun. And this is, and you talk about Tom Hanks. This is kind of prime Tom Hanks to me, I love all Tom Hanks. Yeah. Every Tom Hanks, I love. He seems like just a gem of a person. He's a great actor. He's an American icon. He's fantastic. I have nothing negative to say about him. But this is when I like him best. This and Big, where he's still kind of playing more into the physical comedy and he's making bigger comedic choices. Like there's one, kind of, if any scenes in this movie are iconic, one kind of iconic scene in this movie where he and his neighbor realize that they're holding a human bone that the dog has dug out of the yard. One guy's like,
Ray, this is Walter.
They both just open their mouths wide and just scream, and the camera fast pans in and out, in and out. Like it's goofy and it's meant to be, but it's so big and so funny that I just can't help but laugh out loud. And that's kind of the tone of this movie, and I love it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just a fun ride. Like when you want to sit down and you just want to enjoy something that is light and you're going to laugh and you're not going to have to think too hard. You're just going to love it. There's just so much to love about this movie. And it's just about suburban America. It's almost a parody of suburban America.
Yeah.
And I was really thinking hard about this today. And I think this is what I love about the movie, and maybe part of its charm why it resonates with so many people. It's no accident that this was filmed on the same Universal Studios backlot that like Leave It to Beaver and the Munsters and all of these
Desperate Housewives.
Yeah, up to now, right? But like all of these sitcoms that all take suburbia and kind of make it this classic notion of what it's like in suburbia, which we can make fun of, or we can make silly. I think it just plays to a fantasy that we have about what it's like to live in the suburbs. I grew up in the suburbs pretty much everywhere we lived. I was with the military family. We moved around a lot, but everywhere we lived, we were either on base, which was its own little suburban experience, it really is, or off base. My parents bought a house or rented a house, and we lived, again, in a street just like this. At least two of them were cul-de-sacs, just like this.
Nice.
But we, as kids playing around in these streets, had full reign, and we always had these fantasies of what was happening with our neighbors. A lot of people we didn't even know. I even think when I was growing up in the 80s, it still sadly wasn't like everybody's outside mowing their lawns and sprinklers and kids just running around playing. Most people were inside their house, but the kids might be out on the street playing around, coming and going. And I remember when we lived in Michigan, we lived on this kind of cul-de-sac, and there was a woman, I think she must have been in high school. I don't even know her. She was 2 doors down from us, and we didn't even know this family. But at some point while we were living there, I think she got a present from her parents for her 16th birthday, and into the driveway pulls a pink convertible. And on the pink convertible, they had put like a decal of the Playboy bunny, like on the back or in the corner. And my friends and I were convinced that my neighbor next door was a Playboy centerfold playmate.
That's funny.
We had concocted this whole story about her based on just the fact that she had this pink convertible with the Playboy bunny logo on it somewhere.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. The movie is based on a very common trope that we see in thrillers and horror all the time, really based on what you just said, the notion that you never know what goes on behind closed doors. And, sometimes everything looks normal, but then you take something like this that satirizes it, and, you basically have the Addams family move in next door to the Addams family house. Like why is this house on this beautiful street? These people just moved in. It's not like it fell into this terrible disrepair in the last month.
Right. Exactly. Inside and out, this place looks like the Addams family house. It's a joke.
But that is the whole premise, is that like you never really know what goes on behind closed doors. You don't really know your neighbors. Who are they, what they do, or whatever. And the movie was intended originally to be like a parody of Rear Window, which I can totally see. Mm-hmm. It was written by Dana Olson. I don't know anything about them.
He did Memoirs of an Invisible Man, George of the Jungle. Not a lot, honestly, but some movies I kind of enjoyed.
He wrote it, but then they filmed it during the writer's strike. And so this is very shady to me. I read that like Dante got him on set by hiring him as an actor, but he couldn't contribute anything to the script. Okay.
Sure. Didn't happen, huh?
But supposedly, as a result of that, most of the movie is improvised. Like, they were just rewriting in the moment all the time. And that, I think, probably is great because the cast of this movie is just... It's great.
Capable.
Like this
Very
is
capable
capable. I mean, Tom Hanks, you know, he's an actor. I know he's directed. I don't know. I think he's written, but I'm not sure. However, his wife is played by Carrie Fisher, who is a brilliant writer, brilliant comedian.
Yes.
So I'm sure she contributed. Rick Ducommun was a comedian out of Canada, I think.
Yep.
That he and Rick Moranis and all those famous Canadians came from. So he's used to improv. That's kind of what he does. Wendy Shaw, who I don't think people would recognize her name. I don't even know that I would recognize her name, but she was in great 80s things.
Yes.
And I always kind of remember her the same. She's always got, you know, kind of ditzy and like big blonde hair and big boobs and high heels. I remember her as being Martin Short's grocery store coworker in Inner Space.
Oh, yeah.
And
another fantastic movie.
Yes, and her boss was played by Henry Gibson, who plays Dr. Clopex in this movie also.
Yes.
Then you got Corey Feldman, and then you got Bruce Dern. Like, I think of Bruce Dern as a serious actor. And he plays kind of the straight man, I guess, in this movie, but he's really funny. Courtney Gaines from
Children of the Corn.
Yeah, and Can't Buy Me Love, he was in that too. I mean, he wasn't huge or anything, but he had been in stuff at this point. It's a great cast, especially if you grew up in the 80s watching movies. This is an all-star cast for 80s kids.
It is. And then directed by none other than Joe Dante. And this is Joe Dante through and through. This is his material. He is so about these quirky kind of genre mashups. You know, even The Howling, when we did that, which was one of his first big movies, and Piranha's a comedy horror. The Howling has these odd elements of comedy.
Definitely.
These odd elements of darkness and horror. So he's perfect for this movie. He just has this almost Gremlins-like sensibility to it. They're playing with the darkness, but it never gets too dark. Mm-hmm. But when you really step back and think about it, it is actually kind of dark and quirky, you know, and comedy. He can just do comedy really well. And apparently Hanks was like, look, man, he's one of the best directors I've ever worked with. He let us experiment, he let us play, and he really knew how to work the camera so that the story was told through the eyes of the camera. Couldn't say enough good things about it. And apparently everybody had a blast on this set, and it totally shows.
Yeah, 100%. It just looks like they're having fun, and there's something quaint and charming about filming this all just on this cul-de-sac. Like, it almost exclusively takes place outdoors, and it's just these neighbors doing what neighbors do. They know each other, they have established relationships. The first thing we see is Tom Hanks steps outside of his house at night. I think he's in his pajamas, and he hears weird noises next door, like banging. And when he steps onto the lawn, the wind picks up mysteriously. Like, we're just establishing tone. This is what we're doing. Then immediately, boom, it's daytime in suburbia. Uh-huh. And they establish it the same way we always establish daytime in suburbia, with kids riding their bikes down the street and, you know, somebody mowing their lawn or something. I don't know. I'm making this up, but it's the same way that they always set this up. And then we start to meet people.
Yeah. It's like panning through the neighborhood.
Yeah, right. And it's great. I love this as a device. I love this part of these types of movies. When the new family comes into town and we get acquainted with the town, we meet the people. There's Walter, who appears to be an elderly gay man, though that's never really an issue. Right. And he's got a little dog, a little poodle named Queenie, played by the same dog from The Silence of the Lambs.
It's a crazy bit of trivia.
Yeah. Teenager Ricky, played by Corey Feldman, who lives in the Munsters house. And I guess his parents are away for the weekend or something.
I was trying to figure out it almost seems like he owns the house, but
it does seem like it. But there's no way, because he's a teenager.
No, he's too young. Either that or he struck it rich in Bitcoin or something.
And then there's Rumsfeld, played by Bruce Dern, and he's like retired military, still wears his fatigues and camos and stuff.
Still raises the flag every morning.
And he's married to Bonnie, played by Wendy Shaw, who I talked about, who's clearly younger than him. But they actually seem to have a really cute relationship.
They do.
We meet Carrie Fisher, Ray's wife, and she's worried about him. Now, I'm not really clear what's going on here.
Right.
They keep talking about how he's on vacation, but it kind of seems like vacation in air quotes, and he's really on edge.
Yeah. I felt like when I was a kid that he was overworked, he was on vacation, and he was also stressed out about just like living the life that everybody lives. You know that old trope of I'm so successful that everything is so normal that I don't have any excitement in my life, or I don't know where my life is going except ordinary. And so I'm depressed. Midlife crisis kind of thing. Like, what am I coming to? And so instead of going out for his vacation, he was going to stay home and have vacation, like a staycation, I guess, at home. Try to get things done
just
around the
relax.
house. Relax, yeah.
Yeah. Sit around and drink beer in his yard during the day, I guess.
He spends almost no time doing that right away.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem. Like, they're bored. I think you're right. I think that this is kind of commentary on, the grind and, just living that prescribed life or whatever. I don't know. I don't really have any commentary about that. But
well, in general, neighborly nosiness, too.
Well, that's true. But what I was getting at was he also has this friend, Art, played by Rick Ducommun. Now, I heard that Tom Hanks and I heard, like somebody told me, I read it. I read that Rick Ducommun and, like, Tom Hanks didn't get along with him very well, but he, was a professional about it. And I hate to hear that because they worked pretty well together.
Yeah.
But it also kind of worked for their characters because Tom Hanks's character, who is kind of, like I said before, uptight, is generally irritated by Ducommun's character, Art.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a little bit of life imitating Art, but it works well in the movie. But my point was the two of them, seemingly, Art's wife is out of town for the weekend also, by the way. They have nothing better to do than spy on and theorize about their new neighbors who they don't know.
I did talk to the real estate broad that sold them the place. Apparently their last house, it only burnt to the ground.
Really?
Yeah. A hideous, raging inferno.
Neighbors from hell.
Whatever it is, I'm sure glad I'm not the one who lives right next door to him. I mean, come on, let's face it. These Clopex are strange. I've been watching that house ever since they moved in. No one goes in, no one comes out, no visitors, no deliveries. What do you think they're eating over there, Ray?
Like if they would occupy themselves with something productive or go on vacation rather than just hanging out in the yard, maybe they wouldn't be so worried about it.
Yeah, which Ray's wife, Carrie Fisher, is continually telling him, you just need to do this. Go on vacation. We just need to leave. He's like, no, really, I'm going to do this. And there's a lot of that humor, too, that I told you so wife who just sits and smiles knowingly, nodding at her husband's antics that she knows are not going to go anywhere, and she knows are overblown and knows are silly. That's that classic sort of woman knows best relationship.
Yeah, but I love Carrie Fisher so much. Carrie Fisher just has something about her that can come across, that trope that you're talking about can kind of come across as like the bitch wife,
Right.
And that's not with Carrie Fisher at all. Like,
no, you're on her side, actually.
Oh my God. She is clearly the voice of reason at every turn.
Yes.
And if he would have listened to her all along, they would have had no problems. He and Art are, suspicious of what's going on next door. These people moved in. It's the Clopex, I guess. They know their name, but they've like seen them digging in their backyard at night. And the only one that really comes out is Hans. Clopex, played by Courtney Gaines, who is a child of the corn.
Yes.
And looks like a child of the corn in Lederhosen.
I remember being so creeped out, but oddly fascinated by this guy when I was a kid. He's got like these big like lamb chops on the side of his face, whereas he's grown out. He just looks like he doesn't take very good care of himself and is scared of his shadow and is a werewolf mid-transformation, basically.
Yeah. Right. But they just, Art and Ray just stand around in the yard staring at their house talking about it. And Carol just keeps saying, like, either leave them alone or go over there. There are very rational ways to deal with this.
Yeah.
But instead, they act like big dum-dum men, which, and they eventually get the military guy, Rumsfeld, in on it too. And then it just becomes a series of silly things, but that are all funny, but I don't really know how to go about them. I feel like...
I think there's an escalation here, but even from the get-go, the things that are happening do feel rather odd. Like, you're trying to convince yourself that there might be a rational explanation for it. And it just in the way that it's filmed, maybe it's overblown. But no, not really. Like, there's one point during the rainstorm, and I think this is the thing that starts to kick it off. They see the garage door opens. This guy, Hans, drives their car like 8 feet to the edge to the end of the driveway, pulls a big plastic bag out of there, stuffs it in the garbage can, takes a shovel and bashes it down harder into the garbage can, looks left and right, gets back in the car, and backs it back into the garage. And what they should do is go right over there and check it out, but they decide to wait until morning.
Yeah, but there's been an escalation up to that point. Like, they've already, like, gone up on the porch, and I don't remember if they
rung
knocked
the
on
doorbell.
the door. Well, and the scene that you're talking about, the 3 men are on one of their rooftops spying on this guy with an infrared scope. So like, it's already escalated on their side too. But you're right, this stuff is shady. And that was a hilarious performance by Courtney Gaines, which again was another improvised thing. Like, he was just supposed to take the trash out.
Yeah.
And he just starts bashing it. Like, you can see him getting physically like worked up. And it's really funny, and it looks crazy, and it's supposed to look crazy.
But then they find Walter's dog running around, and the whole joke is that Walter's
no, hold on, you can't skip. You were talking about the trash, and they should have just gone and looked in it right then. I don't even remember why they explained that they don't, but there's a great... They're going to look at it in the morning, and the next thing we see is them, like, I think, running out because the garbage truck is already there.
Yep.
And
good old Dick Miller.
The garbage men, yeah. Dick Miller and Robert Picardo. Robert Picardo, I don't know from a lot of things, but he was in Inner Space too. Lots of Inner Space.
Another Joe Dante movie.
Uh-huh.
Joe Dante has his people he likes to work with, and Dick Miller being probably in maybe every single one of his movies.
Yeah.
No way Wednesday night. I'm going to leave.
This seminar could change your life, Vic. The man is a great healer.
And I'm a great bowler. And Wednesday night, we're taking on Roselli Plumbing.
You really should expose yourself to this guy, Vic. He understands paraphysical forces, the healing capabilities of crystals, and the laying on of hands.
You want to try laying on some hands?
And they're funny. It's, you're watching a Joe Dante movie. This is your Dick Miller moment. Like,
yes.
And it's just a fun little back and forth. They have some stupid conversation about like when garbage becomes public property or something. But it's a funny scene because those 3 dum-dums all come running out of their houses in their pajamas, jumping into the garbage truck, pulling all the garbage out into the street. And then I didn't notice until the very end of the movie, but that garbage just stays on the street.
It
for the rest of
never
the movie.
moves. That was so funny. Every now and then, like, a car drives over it, or they have to step over it when they go in, and I'm like, days go by, and I'm like, there's nobody gonna pick up this garbage. Oh, it's great. But yeah, you're right. So that happens, and then they notice the dog running loose, and they get worried because Walter would never let his dog just run loose. And so they go over to his house to return the dog, and when Walter doesn't answer, they break into his house. And they find some chairs overturned and the television on and Walter's toupee. Walter's not there.
Right, and they think that's shady because a bald guy would never leave the house without his toupee, which is
fair enough.
True.
Unless he has 2 toupees. They didn't really think about that.
Fair.
So they leave a note for Walter, which the minute he wrote it and post fast in there, "We have your dog," I thought, oh, that just sounds like a ransom note.
It totally does.
Yeah. Leaves the toupee and they actually slips it back through the mail slot too. And then you're always seeing the Clopex watching them from the roof, from their house or from the window or
from
something like
behind gauzy curtains, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then for some reason Ray is reading about demonology. I don't know how we got here.
I don't either.
I guess because Art is convinced that Walter was a human sacrifice.
I don't know why. He just jumps to it really fast.
Ray, do you want him to take your family, kidnap them, tear their livers out, and make some kind of satanic pate?
No, I'm not going to listen to this.
Ray, you're chanting.
I'm not going to
Ray.
hear this now. I'm not
Ray, look.
going to
Ray.
listen to this.
Unconscious
I'm
chanting.
not
You're
going to
chanting.
hear this now.
I want to
don't
kill
want to hear
everyone.
this
Satan
now. I'm
is
not going
good.
to listen
Satan is
to
our pal.
this.
But you talked about how there were like phrases from this movie that as kids we repeated. This one, my cousins and I don't remember when it stopped because we used to do, "I want to kill everyone. Satan is good. Satan is my pal."
So did we.
All the time.
Yes.
So funny. Another ad lib.
Yeah.
Oh, God. But Ray's freaking himself out watching horror movies like The Exorcist and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And then he has a crazy nightmare, which is hilarious.
Yes.
This is I think, Joe Dante. He just has this sensibility, just this dark comedic sensibility. And like you said, I totally agree with you. He kind of knows just how far to push it. He also keeps it light enough that you can laugh at it comfortably.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, bad things can happen to people. You know, in Gremlins, a lot of people died.
Yeah.
But it was okay to laugh because it was silly.
Yeah. Old woman flies out the window.
Yeah. Jesus. Ray's nightmare is silly, but it's funny. I just have on my notes, he's barbecue.
Yeah, on a giant Weber grill, which slowly reveals itself as they're tying him down and standing around him going, "I want to kill everyone. Satan is good. Satan is my pal." He gets us in a state of mind. And then I think they're talking in the backyard, and Ray may even be going, "Oh, this is ridiculous. This is stupid. We need to stop bothering our neighbor. We need to get to vacation and all that." And his dog is digging in the backyard by the fence that separates his property from the Clopex. And his dog brings over a bone, which he brings to Ray, which Ray just absolutely picks up and tosses back.
That was really funny.
The dog retrieves it, brings it back. Eventually, Art looks and says, "Ray, what do you have there?" And he's like, "Oh, it's just a bone." He's like, "That's not just any bone. That's a human femur bone." And they all walk towards slowly. Everything builds to this moment. I love the build up for this joke. The camera gets low. The music, by the way, the score from Jerry Goldsmith is wonderful. The music gets really intense. It dawns on them suddenly.
He dug it up from underneath the fence.
Ray, there's no doubt anymore. This is real. Your neighbors are murdering people. They're chopping them up. They're burying them in their backyard. Ray, this is Walter.
And then totally break the mood with that zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out, and them screaming. And we thought that was the funniest thing in the world.
It was hilarious. I, to this day, laugh out loud every time I see it. It is so funny.
I saw this with Liz for the very first time. She had never seen this movie before, and she laughed out loud here. It's such a bold choice, too, because I do not think even the wackiest comedies are not going to go this far as to do this camera move.
Yeah.
It's pretty bold choice, but it so works.
I know, it just does. I don't know how to explain it. The tone is just perfectly balanced because it is dark, too. We're talking about dead people. Of course, this happens even after. At some point, Carol won't even let Ray go out to play with his friends because he's getting so worked up about things. And in that time, stupid Art puts a note under the Clopex door and runs away. Like he ding-dong ditches, and his note just says, "I know what you've done." Like at this point, they are actively tormenting these people.
Yes.
Oh boy. And I think, again, voice of reason, Carol keeps saying that, but they're big dumb men, so. But right after that big scream, one of the Clopex throws the note crumpled up over the fence onto their lawn, like at their feet. So they know.
Right. And in the meantime, you feel a little bad for Ray because Ray's kind of getting framed by his friends' antics.
Yeah.
Because Ray didn't slip that note under the door.
Right.
But they tossed this note off on Ray's lawn. And so you can also see that Ray's kind of in a pickle here, too, where he's their literal next door neighbor and he doesn't want to be targeted next.
But I do love this part where the wives finally step in. And both of them are very level-headed, and they're like, let's just go over there. The women kind of lead them over there, the men, trailing behind them, and they try to be neighborly. I think Bonnie has like brownies or something, has made them brownies, and they knock on the door and somebody answers. This is somebody we haven't seen before, I think. Ruben Klopek, played by Theodore Gottlieb, who I know nothing about, but he looks like he's kind of like an Igor. Like he's kind of short and squat and hunches his shoulders and kind of tilts his head and looks askance. Very suspicious looking. And everything in this house is cuckoo crazy.
It's just an old-fashioned house in a neighborhood where all the houses are modern. It looks like you said, like the Addams Family house, just dark wood, ornate Gothic decoration everywhere. Not even all of the furniture, I think, is uncovered. And all he does is just stare at them uncomfortably while they sit around and try, sort of, to make conversation.
And Hans serves them on a platter sardines and pretzels. And watching Tom Hanks pull out a sardine out of the tin and lay it gingerly across the pretzel and put it in his mouth. So
that was
funny.
That was hilarious. I'd forgotten about that.
Sardines and pretzels.
But it's fun to watch the women as they start to come around to, this really is weird.
Yeah, but it's also hilarious. I think that Carrie Fisher and the other lady whose name I can't think of played it very well. They are suburban women. They are trying to be neighborly. They are trying to be polite. Yes, now they realize these guys are weirdos, but not necessarily dangerous or what, okay, you're right. They're weird. Let's be nice and get this over with and get out of here. But it was fun to watch. I felt like they, as silly as the situation is, they played it as straight as possible. And I thought it was really funny.
And then we meet the doctor who comes out. Again, like you said, played by Henry Gibson. By the way, did you know that Henry Gibson played the voice of Wilbur in that Charlotte's Web cartoon?
I absolutely did not. I love that movie so much.
He looks, it's so good. He looks so sinister, but he's the least odd of all of them. And I like what's happening here. Everyone but Art is trying to be tiptoe and tap dance around these guys, and they're just all kind of stunned. And Art is like, so, the body's downstairs, huh? So what do you got going on in the basement, huh? Maybe a little something weird? Maybe we should go down there. He is just outwardly trying to provoke these people.
Yeah.
And he sneaks around the back while they're all talking. I think their dog gets loose and chases after
they have
him.
a great big Great Dane. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what kind of ends the whole thing.
Right, they all uncomfortably leave after that commotion. And I think the wives go home and they're like, see, you guys are big dummies. They're just weirdos. Leave them alone. And all the men are left standing in the street. And Ray reveals that he found Walter's toupee at the Clopex house. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if I get that. How did it get there?
They said that they were taking in the mail for At the end.
Okay, that's later.
Yeah, later. But it's
Something.
at this point in the movie, though, you're drawn back in. You know, you're like, wait a minute, there's no way there's a good reason for that toupee being at the Clopex.
Right.
Because we saw him put that toupee back into Walter's house.
Obviously, I can't remember seeing this movie for the first time, but I can't imagine that there was ever any doubt in my mind that there was something sinister going on over there.
Sure, yeah.
I can't imagine what a letdown the movie would have been if it turned out to be nothing. Like, there's no way this is going nowhere.
It's true. It's true.
So these were just... It felt fun, like, ooh, we're getting new clues. Like,
Right.
It's satisfying. Of course, you know, they feel so proud of themselves for being right.
As soon as that car leaves in the morning, I'm going over the fence, and I'm not coming back till I find a dead body. Nobody knocks off an old man in my neighborhood and gets away with it.
So they set this whole plan into motion for reasons unknown. Maybe they told them during the visit that they were
Leaving.
Yeah, because they kind of explained that the doctor said that his work keeps them on the move. I think he's a professor or something.
Yeah.
He says they've moved 4 times in 4 years and they're getting ready to move again.
Yeah. He said, tomorrow we're going to have to leave and go to a meeting to discuss yet another move. And they're like, oh, that's a shame. But this is a turning point for Tom Hanks's character, for Ray, because now he's like totally sold and a man on a mission who's got to do a thing.
Right. I don't remember how he convinces his wife and son to leave.
That's a little shady.
But he does.
Yeah, I don't buy that, honestly. She is way too smart to believe that he is not going to be up to no good, suddenly wanting to send them away and suddenly coming around on all this stuff.
I guess if you wanted to, I guess you could say maybe she thinks that his curiosity has been satisfied because they've been over there. But again, no, she's too smart.
Nah, he's too shady about it too.
Yeah, he's like, me and Art are gonna go play golf, and then Art comes over with a golf club in his hand in like a full golf. He's like outfit. He's like, yeah, I can't wait to be golf. I'm gonna be golfing all day, just golf. Like, yeah, Carol is way too smart to fall for that.
I love that Art also has like a full-on uniform for everything that he's doing. So he comes over in the golf uniform, and then the rest of them go to work. They've got this plan that they've put together that we're about to see unfold that we don't know exactly what it is yet. And part of it involves him having to climb the power line in the backyard and cut the power to their house. And at the time he goes to do that, he's got like a hard hat on. He's got suspenders. Yeah. He looks like
like coveralls. Yeah. I also think that it's so funny to me that the movie tells you this is it. This is Act 3. Because Ricky, Corey Feldman, literally calls all of his friends over to his house to watch the show. Like, it's the movie telling you, get out the popcorn, folks. The show's about to start. It starts with him going up and cutting the power line and getting electrocuted. Getting shot off the pole, falling through the roof of a shed. And it's shenanigans from this point on.
It's total shenanigans, and I'm totally on board.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm right there with Ricky, literally across the street. And it just makes you think it would be so fun to be in this neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Because everything's happening on full display. But yeah, they go in, and so they break it. Well, the first thing they start doing, I think they're digging in the backyard forever. They dig like 6 or 7 holes and can't find anything, while Art is keeping watch right across the street from the roof.
Not Art. Isn't Art the one that's with him? It's the military guy, Rumsfeld.
Rumsfeld,
yeah.
They decide they need to go in the house, and so they break in the house, and they go straight to the basement. Conveniently, they took the dogs with them. Yeah, and there's a giant furnace down there, which can only be for one thing. It's got extra pipes and power and stuff rigged to it, and it all starts to make sense to them. They're like, well, no wonder the lights go out in the neighborhood every now and then. We get these brownouts, and there's all this stuff. Like, there must be serious power coming into this furnace, and what more could this furnace be but a crematorium? And so they decide they have to start digging.
Yeah, I guess they think they're burying the bones down there now, right? So Tom Hanks is digging. The power, meanwhile, is still out on the whole block from where they cut it, and the Clopex slowly pull up the street, see the light in the cellar, and then leave again. Now, I don't know. It seems to me like nobody saw them. I know that at that point Rumsfeld had fallen off the roof, so I don't think that anybody saw them. But they see that somebody's in their house, and they leave. Meanwhile, we see a car pull into Walter's driveway, and somebody helps Walter out of the back seat. Like, he seems to be not well, like something has happened, but he's there and alive. And I guess, I don't know, again, I wish that I could remember how I felt when I had first seen it, because the Clopex come back with the police.
Yep.
They have called the police because somebody is in their house.
Yep.
As the police are pulling up, Ray hits metal, and I think we hear a hissing, and he realizes he's hit the gas line, and he tells Art to run, and Art runs out the door screaming, I don't know, gas or something, and the house blows up.
Yep. Oh my God.
The whole house explodes.
Yeah, this is it's kind of a classic gotcha reversal, right? Where now we're just questioning everything. Wait a minute, Walter's fine. They haven't found a thing in there.
Nothing.
Now the house is exploding. The Clopex went and got the
Clopex
cops.
called the police.
Yeah,
right.
So it's like, oh my God, it's kind of a funny ending. You know, you're thinking it's ending because then Ray miraculously manages to walk out of the house, and I remember how I felt when I first saw this. I thought Tom Hanks was putting on the performance of his life, and it was absolutely hilarious.
It's so funny.
He is just this stunned, beaten man who it's like he's finally come to his senses, but he is dazed. And Art comes up to him and is still on about the Clopex, and he just goes off on this guy.
Get off that case already! They didn't do anything to us! They didn't do anything to us! All right, so they're different, so they keep to themselves! Can you blame them? They live next door to people who break into their house and burn it down while they're gone for the day! Remember what you were saying about people in the burbs, Art? People like Skip? People who mowed their lawn for the 800th time and then snap! Well, that's us! It's not them! That's us! We're the ones who are vaulting over the fences and peeking into people's windows! We're the ones who are throwing garbage in the street and lighting fires! We're the ones who are acting suspicious and paranoid! We're the lunatics! Us! It's not them!
In the process of this, he just grabs the gurney, throws it in the back of the ambulance, jumps on it himself, and is like, take me to the hospital.
It is so funny. And at least, I don't know how much of it, but at least that gurney part was improv.
Oh, it's so...
And it's so physical and so funny. I mean, he's manic.
Yes.
He's absolutely manic. And he throws it in the back and then throws himself onto it. Like, the mattress doesn't even have time to settle. Like, he like it's kind of folded underneath him, and he's just you have to see it, but he does such a great job. His physical comedy is hilarious.
It really
that
is.
whole outburst is absolutely hilarious. I also thought it was funny, even before that outburst, Carol comes home with the son, and instead of the typical thing that would, you would have the panicked woman like, oh my God, what's going on? She's more like, oh my God, what now?
Almost like she half expected this to happen anyway.
Yeah. And that's, I maybe the cops explained to them that the Clopex had been picking up Walter's mail and they picked up the toupee by mistake, which that tracks
because he put the toupee in the mail slot when he put it back. Yeah. You think the movie's over.
And Ray's in the back of the ambulance, and Dr. Clopex gets in the back with him. And Ray's like, I am so sorry, sir. I'm really sorry, and I promise as soon as I'm out of the hospital, I will help you, like, build your house or something stupid like that. But he's being totally apologetic and completely admitting that he was in the wrong. And Dr. Clopex looks at him and says, "You saw one of them, didn't you?" He's like, "What?" He's like, "You saw one of my skulls, didn't you?" And then he gives, the evil villain speech where he, tells him that they killed the previous owners and this is what they do. And then he has this great big comically large needle and he's trying to inject Ray, and the driver in the ambulance turns around and it's Hans, and the ambulance takes off, and I don't know why, because is anybody in pursuit or anything?
No.
The ambulance just drives into a house.
It just
I don't even know whose house that was.
Yeah, it was definitely Art's house, which felt fitting. Art needed to get a little pain in all this.
But when that happens, the stretcher rolls out of the back. This is so funny. It's stupid,
hilarious.
But it's just hilarious.
Yeah, it's dumb.
And Ray and the doctor are fighting, struggling on this stretcher as it rolls down the street. And eventually, I guess when it stops, Ray grabs onto the doctor and says, "Citizens arrest! Citizens arrest!
I'm making a citizen's arrest." Man.
But the doctor then is playing all innocent, and I don't even know how it happens, but they're all standing around the Clopex car, and somehow the trunk pops open, and it's all full of human skeletons and bones.
What do the Clopex do? I mean, what did they just kill people?
Yeah, who cares?
Just mass murderers or something? I don't know.
Sure, why not?
Whatever. They're arrested immediately. Charges against Ray are immediately dropped. And then, of course, we're going to go away for a long while. And he turns to Ricky and is like, "You watch over the neighborhood while we're gone. And Corey Feldman does this kind of stroll away and breaks the fourth wall, looks right at the camera and says, "God, I love this neighborhood." Spins around and starts to walk away through the chaos of the cops and everything. Fitting end.
Somebody says, I don't know if it's Rumsfeld or somebody at some point says, "Do not mess with suburbanites." I thought that was hilarious. I also thought somebody says, I think it's Ray, but somebody says, "Art, your wife's home and your house is on fire."
That's right.
God, yeah. It's a funny ending, a satisfying ending. That I read that the bones in the trunk were an insert shot. They didn't know what to put in the trunk. At one point, they had the bodies of the trash guys, Dick Miller and the other guy. At one point, they were going to be in there. At one point, it was full of dead cheerleaders, which would have been odd. I think the bones was probably the right way to go, especially since we had seen bones before.
Well, they apparently shot 3 different endings, right?
Something like that.
Joe Dante was like, none of them really worked, but the first test screening they did, the audience didn't really like it, so they did make some tweaks. But apparently the script originally had Ray dying.
Yeah, but I don't think they ever shot that.
No.
I think they thought nobody wants to see Tom Hanks get killed.
No.
And they were right.
That would have made it very dark. Yeah. And taken a real goofy comedy and had a real weird dark ending to it just wouldn't have worked.
I can only imagine the script probably was significantly darker, but you put Joe Dante on it, who already has this kind of dark comic sensibility, and then you fill it with a bunch of really, really smart comedic actors and writers and basically give them free reign.
Yeah.
You're going to get some good stuff. And it may vary significantly from the source material, but if you're getting, I never know how to feel about that. The writer was on set. I hope that he was cool with it. I can't imagine why he wouldn't be. I would think it would be so great to be able to work with these kind of people on something that you had written and to be able to see them play with it and come up with fun, cool ideas that maybe you hadn't thought of. Yeah. I can't imagine how cool that would be. So I hope it was a positive experience for him. But this is one of those, maybe it was kind of a happy accident that the writer kind of had to be hands off. Because of the strike.
I could see that.
I think, sometimes, sometimes maybe there should be like a producer's strike so that directors and writers can really go with their real vision without the influence of the money.
Right.
And whatever. In this case, I think I don't even want to say it's lightning in a bottle, because Joe Dante's done lots of stuff that I've thought was innovative and funny and fun, and still I get my horror fix too. I love horror comedy. I get that chocolate right in my peanut butter. I'm ready for it.
Well, we got a lot more of it coming up this month.
I know, and I'm excited. I think it's going to be super fun.
Oh, you guys are going to love it. And like I said, there's some stuff in there that's going to surprise you. Maybe some stuff you've never even heard of before, and maybe some things you've forgotten about and need to be reminded of how cool they really were. Or not. I don't know.
We'll
you
see.
know, when you revisit these older movies that meant a lot to us when we were kids, I'm always a little nervous about it.
Me too.
I was honestly a little nervous going into this one. I thought, am I going to reevaluate this? You know, is it not going to be quite as fun? And aside from saying maybe the pacing is just a tad bit slower than a modern comedy would be, no, I was just laughing from moment to moment and just really enjoying the ride, the whole.
I couldn't recommend this movie more. I don't know. I mean, if you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of comedy, if you're a fan of Tom Hanks, if you're a fan of Carrie Fisher, and you've got to be at least one of those things, right?
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, and I get it, it's not. Joe Dante says, even though it was critically panned and didn't do as well as they had hoped it would do, you know, at the time, they just kind of threw up their hands and were like, whatever, move on to the next thing, that's fine. But he said that over time, this is the movie that comes in second only to Gremlins as the movie that people ask him the most about and that people are the most excited to talk to him about. And I get it, because it's super fun, and I imagine that a lot of those people are like us. They saw it when they were kids. This movie, you know, I don't think it's scary. There are dark elements like human bones, human skeletons, that kind of thing. But this is fairly family friendly.
Yeah. No Fright Night, you know, at all.
No. Right.
Right.
There's really no violence or gore, really. So again, I could go on, but basically it's one of my favorite movies, frankly, from when I was young. It's kind of hard to find.
Surprisingly.
I know. It doesn't seem to be streaming on any of the major platforms, and I would have bought it, but I couldn't even find any place to buy it digitally. I was able to watch it. It was so annoying in 5-minute clips on YouTube. They weren't even stitched together, so every time one would end, I would have to click over to the next one, and so that was annoying, but whatever. I didn't care. It was still a great movie. I would do it again.
Well, 1 down, 4 more to go. What a great way to kick off Horror Comedy Month. Friends, thank you so much for listening. And if you have a friend or somebody you know who loves horror comedies as much as we do, what a perfect time to introduce them to the podcast. Just send them to chainsawhorror.com or just have them Google Two Guys in a Chainsaw Podcast. We also have a weekly newsletter that you can sign up for on our site that lets you know what's coming up and what we've done and gives you a little bit of news for the week in horror. Just consolidates that for you. We have a Patreon behind the scenes. We just finished doing the book Clown in a Cornfield, and we're moving on to another Christopher Pike book. If something like that interests you, go to patreon.com/Chainsaw Podcast. Get access to that, plus a whole bunch of other stuff, minisodes, the full unedited versions of our podcast, some interviews, written things that we do, and just general access to us for $5 a month. Until next time, I'm Todd.
And I'm Craig.
With Two Guys and a Chainsaw.